Look upon the ancient ruins of the world. Look upon the shattered swords of forgotten kings, the rusted armor of fallen empires, and the crumbled statues of tyrants who believed their dominion to be eternal. They worshiped the illusion of the unbreakable. They stood like giant, proud oaks in the face of the tempest, their chests bared, screaming their defiance into the howling wind. And when the great storm reached its devastating zenith, they did not bend, they snapped. Their immense pride was their final executioner. To be entirely rigid is to court death. To stand immovable before a force vastly greater than yourself is not courage. It is the ultimate tragic vanity of the mortal ego. We are taught from our very first breath that strength is an iron fist, an unyielding jaw, a fortress of stone that refuses to tremble under siege. We are told that to step back, to give ground, is to wear the heavy, shameful cloak of a coward. The history books sing praises of those who fought to the last drop of blood, glorifying their spectacular annihilation. But the silent, unmarked graveyards of the earth are overfilled with the bones of rigid men who broke simply because they forgot the oldest, most merciless law of nature, the law of the water. Behold the water. It is the softest, most defenseless, most accommodating element in the cosmos. You can pass your hand through it, and it offers absolutely no resistance. You can strike the surface of a lake with the heaviest, most brutal hammer forged by human hands, and the water will not bruise, it will not fracture, it will not bleed. It simply parts. It accepts the violent blow, absorbs the kinetic fury, and in the very next instant, it heals itself perfectly, returning to an unbroken, terrifying stillness. Water holds the supreme primordial wisdom of the universe because it understands the devastating power of yielding. To practice the art of yielding true Wu Wei is to walk a path of profound, agonizing solitude. It is the heavy tragedy of the awakened mind. When you choose to step back, the world will mercilessly mock you. When you lower your head and refuse to strike back at the arrogant mountain blocking your path, the blind masses will point their fingers and call you weak. Water always, without exception, seeks the lowest ground. It flows downward, slipping into the dark, damp, forgotten crevices of the earth, settling into the muddy abysses that men despise, fear, and avoid. To embody the nature of water, you must be entirely willing to descend into the valleys of human humiliation. You must be willing to swallow the burning, choking coal of your own ego. You must stand in the face of blatant injustice, bearing the weight of insults. And instead of erupting into a glorious but fatal fire, you must force yourself to become the cold, silent, observing river. Think of the weary traveler who bears the immense weight of a broken lineage. Think of the father who bows his head in the dirt before a cruel lord, swallowing the bitter bile of extreme degradation, allowing himself to be spat upon. The crowd jeers, and even his own kin may turn their faces away in profound shame, mourning the death of his honor. But his honor is not dead. It has merely gone underground. He bends the knee so that the executioner's sword does not fall upon his defenseless family. He becomes the water. The profound tragedy of yielding is that it is a completely invisible martyrdom. You bear the cross of being entirely misunderstood. You carry the agonizing, suffocating weight of a coward's reputation merely to protect the fragile, flickering flame of the future. The tears you weep in the dead of night, completely hidden from the judging eyes of the sun, do not vanish into the void. They fall into the great collective river of the human spirit. They become the very water that will, one day, rise up and drown the descendants of the tyrants who mocked your submission. Do not ever mistake this deliberate yielding for surrender. Surrender is the death of the spirit. It is the acceptance of defeat within the soul. Yielding is the ultimate, calculated preservation of your vital force. It is the highest, most sophisticated form of warfare, fought not on the blood-soaked fields of the present, but in the vast, silent theater of time. Imagine the agonizing reality of the river when it first meets the colossal, obsidian cliff. The cliff stands proud, jagged, and immovable, blocking the dawn, arrogantly daring the water to challenge its supremacy. The river does not roar in foolish, suicidal rage. It does not crash its head against the unforgiving stone until it bleeds its currents dry. It feels the immense, immovable mass. It perfectly senses the impossibility of an immediate, frontal conquest, and it whispers softly to the stone, "I yield." It bends. It seamlessly alters its course. It wraps its gentle, flowing arms around the harsh, cutting edges of the rock. It flows over, under, and around. It willingly concedes the battle of today to ensure the absolute victory of eternity. This is the excruciating, lonely discipline of the steel mind. We call it a mind of steel, but remember that true, invincible steel is born only from the marriage of fire and water. If a bladesmith simply heats the iron in the roaring forge and leaves it to cool in the air, it becomes brutally hard, but tragically brittle. A child could shatter it by simply dropping it upon the hearth. It is only when the glowing, angry, screaming metal is plunged violently into the freezing, unforgiving depths of water that it truly learns to endure. It is shocked into resilience. True steel must possess the capacity to flex, to bend to an impossible, terrifying degree under the weight of a heavy killing strike, and then sing a lethal note as it snaps back to its perfect, deadly straightness. If it cannot bend, it dies on the battlefield. When the jagged, rust-covered edges of life tear into your flesh, when the rigid structures of society, the cruel twists of fate, or the oppressive weight of circumstance press down upon your chest, your animal instinct will scream for violence. Your blood will boil and beg you to stand tall, to bare your teeth, and to fight until your bones are pulverized into dust. You must forcefully silence that primitive, suicidal cry. You must close your eyes, feel the overwhelming, suffocating weight of the obstacle, and slip through its suffocating fingers like morning mist. You must learn the heartbreaking art of letting go of the immediate triumph. And then, in the aftermath of your retreat, the quiet work begins. The terrifying, invisible, unrelenting work of the water. It asks for no audience. It demands no medals of valor. It does not boast of its hidden strength in the taverns of men. It simply flows. Day after day, year after year, century after century, the soft, yielding current caresses the base of the arrogant stone. Every gentle, seemingly harmless touch carries away a microscopic grain of the mountain's pride. Every freezing winter night, the water patiently seeps into the invisible, microscopic flaws of the rock, waiting silently for the frost to expand its quiet hold. Patiently, ruthlessly widening the cracks of the rigid mind that opposed it. The stone remains utterly blind to its own demise. It still believes, in its towering vanity, that it is the eternal master of the valley. It still casts its heavy, imposing shadow over the earth, entirely oblivious to the catastrophic fact that its very foundation is being hollowed out by the exact softness it once so deeply despised. This is the devastating, inescapable vengeance of patience. This is the tragic, magnificent beauty of Wu Wei, doing nothing that artificially forces the world, yet leaving absolutely nothing undone. There will come a day when the sky is entirely clear and the wind is deathly quiet. There will be no warning, no grand trumpets sounding from the heavens, no sudden violent earthquake to announce the shift in power, just the continuous, quiet, soft murmur of the stream. And then, the colossal mountain of stone, the unyielding, terrifying obstacle that dared to challenge the heavens and oppress the earth, will let out a deep, agonizing groan. Its core, completely devoured and undermined by the relentless, yielding water, will finally give way. With a deafening, apocalyptic roar that shakes the very pillars of the earth, the rigid titan will collapse into a pitiful cloud of dust and ruin, swallowed whole by the gentle, unassuming river it once mocked. And what will the water do in the face of this monumental victory? It will not celebrate. It will not rise up in arrogance to proclaim its supremacy to the forests. It will simply flow over the shattered ruins, remaining entirely unchanged, pure, indifferent, and terrifyingly calm. To the solitary traveler who dares to walk the arduous, shadowed path of the steel mind, hear this ancient, unalterable truth. The world is immensely heavy, and you cannot lift it by sheer brute force. The hatred and ignorance of men is a raging, consuming fire, and you cannot extinguish it by burning brighter or shouting louder. You must become the void. You must become the deepest valley. When they push you, do not lock your joints and resist the push. Use their own blind momentum to guide them straight into the abyss. When they build massive, fortified walls against your progress, do not waste your life dragging battering rams to their gates. Become the slow, rising tide that quietly, inevitably floods their strongholds from beneath the soil. Accept the shadows, accept the tactical retreat. Let the arrogant and the rigid have the fleeting, meaningless glory of the present moment. Let them crown themselves kings of the decaying, rigid world. You belong to the fluid, unstoppable eternity. Keep your mind as deep, dark, and silent as the midnight ocean. Let the surface of your being ripple with the changing winds. Let your outward demeanor appear harmless, agreeable, and entirely compliant. But keep the crushing, abyssal pressure hidden in the dark, uncharted depths of your soul. Yield, so that you may remain completely whole. Bend, so that you may remain eternally unbroken. Step back, so that you may outlive your enemies. Be as soft, as persistent, and as yielding as the rain, and I promise you, you shall outlive the mountains.